Okay, let's not talk about it. The game is
Okay.
done.
Saved by the bell.
Yeah.
Eloise now has the right deck, and we see Snake Trap in the opening hand.
Yeah, it's probably more mid-range then. She plays low step and Snake Trap. Indicates it's more mid-range, which is better for her than...
Yeah. And we do see a Shield Maiden in Ryzen's hand, just in case we hadn't worked out exactly what his deck was before.
So Ryzen's hand is like as good as it gets without weapons. Like his previous hand, it had weapon, but not like the key minions. So in that regard, kind of like the same quality. So can't be too sad. It's not like he had an insane hand before
and actually, she did have an insane hand herself.
Yeah, like actually, Ryzen's hand was really bad against Eloise's previous hand,
so he won't be too disappointed either. And I don't think he's the sort of guy to actually.
Yeah, he seems like
worry about that sort of thing.
He seems like a really nice guy.
So as the warrior here, obviously, you're the control. You've got to stop the damage. How's the best way to?
You just screw the Arbor Smith on hit face. Mm-hmm. He can armor up also. I think I would crew the Smith, just like get more minions on the board. But he does worry about the bow. That's the thing. And that, like, bow is the consideration why he doesn't do it.
So taking the decision to just get that 3 armor rather than just put things in range of getting bowed down. And Eloise's plan, obviously, do damage as quickly as possible. But the armor smith's a pain, right?
So I guess this is going to be a quick shot. I'm sure if Eloise had a shredder on curve, she wouldn't do this play. But since she doesn't have a follow-up either way, she'd rather use her removal and be sure to have a minion a strong minion to play next turn.
Okay, and now she's going to have to waste her mana just because of the way that her curves worked out.
Usually against control warrior, that's a bad Hunter's Mark target, but it's guaranteed to get value, so it's going to be interesting to see what she chooses to.
So what would you do in this position? Would you Hunter's Mark or would you wait?
It's actually really close. I wouldn't really falter for any position here. I mean, denying card draw, the amount of Ryzen's cards, they matter. It's not like it doesn't matter or you Hunter with face, it doesn't. It matters a lot. What also matters is that you can kill a 7/7 for 0 mana. That's also pretty nice. Another consideration is that if she got another 1-drop, she could play it this time. Ooh, Deathbite, the best draw in the deck.
Yeah, and Deathbite obviously against this deck is pretty ridiculous. It's the card that controls everything going on with all the 1 toughness. Obviously against the other deck it was even more ridiculous, but Eloise hasn't pushed through a huge amount of damage here. Core Hound, how does that work out? Obviously it's not a minion you choose to play, but when
it's better than nothing. It's better than a parrot.
Yeah, like if it's on curve like this, does it make it significantly better than normal?
It really depends, because let's say Ryzen had a VGH, he wouldn't really have anything else to use it for if Dr. Boom hasn't been drawn for Eloise. So it really depends.
And Bear Trap.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. It's another enabler for Houndmaster, and we saw a Snake Trap earlier from Eloise, so it has kind of synergy with Snake Trap that, okay, so what are you going to do? Attack face or my minions? Either way, there's a chance you get fucked. There's no good way to play around it.
Is there a good chance that you play 1 freezing trap in this as well, just to really make the secrets of the Mad Scientist really impossible to play that? Yeah,
I've seen triple different traps a lot of time in competitive decks. So, because Deathbite was played after the Creeper, the Deathbite is gonna kill the 1/1s.
And, I mean, the Warrior on 24 life still with a 5/5. Yeah, about to go to 29, so... Yeah. And Warrior now is a lot more resilient. There were days where you'd get in the position as Warrior before and you'd still be kind of struggling, because if the Hunter could just keep coming at you. But now you have cards like Bash and stuff that, as I understand, just make it even harder for the for the hunter to keep it coming.
Yeah, boom, obviously good here. Like when you're so high life, just do the as warrior, just do the strongest sports play here. Hyman is good, but Eloise was just like kind of far behind. Ryzen just had 2 good draws.
And he will be able to use that freezing trap to his advantage.
Yeah, that kind of answered your question, that she is at least playing 3 traps, and they're all different. So I don't think anyone is playing 4 traps. I would be really surprised.
So the 4th would be explosive, I guess. But yeah. So the upside to playing 3 traps is the surprise when you only have 1 or 2. But the downside, obviously, is that when you have all 3 out, they know exactly what they all are and can play around them. Although if you've got all 3 out, you're probably in front anyway a lot of the time. How would the hunter even try to win this game from here? I mean, if this was Laddie, would you have conceded by now and moved on?
Like let's say, actually, if Ryzen didn't have Belcher, like Eloise could put him really low, and like a good top deck could do it. But like it's still like those minions from Eloise, they're so hard to deal with. We only see 1 execute.
And yeah, just casual 9-5 on the table there. That
and also like the boom bot's not gonna do well because there's I believe there's a snake trap in play.
Yes, so the boom bot doesn't get to do it.
Like they have really low expected value.
Yeah, because something that people do is they just trade their boom bots in, not really realizing you're trying to do sort of 5 or 6 damage with these things. They are not just trading; they are actually a thing. And yeah, having to trade boom into a core hound of all things.
But on the other hand, Ryzen has so much armor gain.
Yeah, he hasn't the Shield Maiden replay if he needs it, and obviously, even though the boom bots don't do good damage, they do clear out like small minions at least.
Yeah, you see, I'm really interested about. I don't like hitting with weapon first. You want like boom bots to have high expected value, and you would have high expected value if you like hold the weapon, so there was an additional target. Like you don't want them.
Yeah, you don't want to go face, right? So yeah, having like you're saying is just getting those boom bots after the weapon, etc., etc.
You can't really spare any damage, so you have to put all in face.
Always Huffer is.
You could choose to maybe you trade in the 2 because like then he still has to tank another 6. That's probably better in the long run. So what is the play here? There is
Shield Maiden obviously challenges the board and keeps you from dying.
Keeps you alive.
Going back to that freezing trap.
But actually, boom here would be pretty nice.
Yeah, and
it would actually be a good top deck. Actually, bow is not that bad either. So you can deal 9 damage this turn, and you have 5 extra. So you are like, it looked really dire, but it actually is a lot closer now.
Yeah, she's still looking for probably a boom to really swing this back with the armor gain still being pretty high in Ryzen's hand, and he going to play shield block after.
Okay, I would probably not have base tank that. That is really surprising to me. I would have traded in the 5/5.
Yeah, and could have shield blocked first to find out where
that is really my. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Possibly just a little bit of nerves there, or possibly seen something we haven't.
Yeah, maybe playing it too fast.
It is easy, or do you find it easy to, when you're playing against one of these players who plays incredibly quickly, like Eloise, like Zigzo, do you sometimes get sort of caught up in going in their pace of things, or are you one of those players yourself?
I used to be a rover, but
okay.
So. I had the pleasure of playing against Dog. He's like one of the really fast players. It didn't really change my play, but I guess it's like against some players, they might speed up the pace as well.
Yeah, like
Ryzen is definitely playing incredibly fast here.
I mean, he is another fast player. Having seen his stream, he is one of these guys who, you know, he doesn't want you to sit and rope every turn against him.
Yeah, it's like a streamer thing, right?
Yeah,
I do that as well when I just grind ladder. It's But in tournaments, it's almost always correct to rope. That's at least my perspective.
No, why not take your time in a situation where, you know, the two players are going to be reasonably equally matched at all times. Whoever spends the most time thinking out of those two intelligent players is going to have an advantage, you think. It does look like he's going to be able to force this through just...
Yeah, he just wants to be sure to have lethal. That's why he didn't kill the... He didn't kill the Shredder.
And he does find the win there, so...
Yeah, I think there was some questionable decisions, but overall, yeah, Ryzen had the Deathbite when he needed it, and I mean, Eloise's hand wasn't bad as well. She had the high main in hand, but in the end, Warrior does what Warrior does.
Yeah.
But now let's see if Warrior can do that against Druid. It tends to not work out that well against Druid.
So obviously, going back 6 months, this match was heavily favoured for Druid.
Yes.
And
we were speaking about mid-range Druid, obviously.
Yeah. And then Bash was printed, and maybe Monkey, although Monkey won't be in this deck because it was after the submission deadline. Has that helped Warrior enough? Does Warrior have a decent chance?
Yeah, because the Nasus, you had both Warwicks and the Nasus. The Nasus is really upgrade to Druid, but just in this matchup, it tends to not be like what you need. You rather want the Wild Growth than the Nasus against Control Warrior. So kind of the new addition to Druid has made this matchup less favorable. That being said, it's still a super favorable matchup for Druid. But yeah. I've seen a lot of games lately where the Control Warrior takes the win in the end. I think also in this tournament, we saw that last week.
And the other card obviously is Justicar. If the Warrior can get the Justicar down on turn 6, and maybe get 1 or 2 activations out of it, and keep the board. And there's a lot of ands there, right? The Druid's still obviously, as you say, big favourite. But if they can get a bit of board control, get a Justicar down, start getting 4 armor a turn, Druid is kind of reliant on.
Well, it's not good early game, but it's good when you have stabilized and usually before the Druid could just search his entire deck for combo, and the Warrior could not really apply enough pressure, and he couldn't really come out of combo range. So the Druid just had too many draws. But when Justicar hits the board, it's just like, kill me in this turn, or it's just gonna be over.
Okay, and we see Ryzen without a 4-drop, so.
Yeah, that's really awkward for Ryzen. Looking pretty strong for the Druid. Usually you go for Lothar here to deny hard removal.
Right. And
I don't really. Yeah. Okay. So she, I guess, I'm sure she would have done it differently if there was a armor. If Ryzen had 5 armor or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't mind seeing Lothar because, a weapon, it can kill a Shredder, but that's why Shredder is good. It sucks. It's really good against weapons.
Yeah, because it just uses up both charges of the weapon, right? So,
yeah.
And time and damage and everything.
Yeah, you 1-for-1 with weapon and you take 12 damage in the process.
Seems fair. You pay 1 more mana for the privilege. And...
So this is interesting. Eloise just has strong minions, no combo pieces, but strong minions. Strong mid-range minions are actually pretty good.
Yeah, it turns out if you can play your minions ahead of your curve and they're powerful as well, and your opponent misses their 4-drop, you're in a good spot. Who knew?
Yeah.
And there comes the Lothar now to shut down any shenanigans, the brawl, and
we see Ryzen already has the brawl, so it's.
Yeah, what's his way back here? He needs to presumably kill the 4/3 with a weapon. And
he can steal
Sylvanas, steal the Shredder.
He opts just to execute it, because he was so low, he was just practically dead. So Ryzen has 11 damage, not quite enough, but yeah. Oh, sorry, Eloise has. But she has Boom though. Turns out to be pretty good in this scenario.
Okay, so is there anything other than YOLO Brawl here? Does he get to try and use the BGH?
Yeah, I think Brawl is the play here. So yeah, you hope the Ooze survives and it tanks 2 hits of the Boombot.
Yeah, and of course he does have the BGH if the Dr. Boom survives. So, but obviously Eloise sitting there with the force of nature. So yeah, the Boombots are going to need to hit this.
Like brawl first. Don't play BGH brawl because you can armor up. Like it's better.
Yeah.
And even if the 7/7 survive, you can.
Oh, he seems to be doing it the other way.
Maybe it's not brawling. No. Maybe it's just acting Acolyte armor up.
And that's where he's going to go with it.
So that's an option. He just shows to say, okay, if you have raw, you just win. I'm not going to play around that. I'm so far behind. I have to take a calculated risk. I need cards. I need armor gains. I don't mind this at all.
And you don't want to take a potential sort of 6 or 8 even from the Boombots.
Yeah,
so...
like it only like like they don't do the damage now. He would get pretty low no matter what. But now like at least he makes Eloise has the raw. I kind of like this.
That's a nice play. It's one of those plays that's obvious when you see it, but actually seeing it is not always the easiest thing because you're so used to clearing with the brawl there.
Exactly.
That's what makes these players so good. And obviously, combo in her hand now is...
It looks like it's only a matter of time.
Ryzen's going to need to draw something pretty spectacular.
Like shield block into shield slam might be pretty decent.
Yeah, that would keep him going, and then maybe a belch or something to turn after that.
So this is like, oh, am I gonna play to survive a turn? Am I gonna play to win? Just slam down this Sarah. So what are the other options? Yeah, the belches just seem so weak. You still have to hit in with weapons to execute.
Yeah, I think the...
So it's a Sarah, Belcher, weapon executes.
Because the Belcher doesn't actually do anything as well, which is why he's considering this here. It just gets killed and you're back in the same spot next turn. So with her having drawn 1 more card. So I would have played this Sarah there and lost horribly on the spot, I think. Just on the off chance that she didn't have anything.
Like you definitely can't blame Ryzen for doing this.
No, I mean this is I'm not saying this is the wrong play, I'm just saying like I'm happy to go down.
But in the end even if Belcher can't block I guess it's 21 damage.
So Ryzen has Warlock and Rogue left to take on the Druid with. I think the days of Rogue players thinking they're 50-50 against Druid have gone. Even for somebody like Ryzen, who will be one of the most hardcore Rogue defenders. What do you think they'll pick here?
We get an answer right now. It's gonna be the Rogue.
No messing around with their selections, they're just getting straight into the next game.
I don't actually. I was one of the guys who had like the fireback impression that Rogue was heavily favored, but kind of the tournament stats told otherwise. So
yeah,
the reason like Rogue can do some stuff that like they can cheat in some ways Druid can't. Like one good example of a GG Rogue play is teacher prep sap on an innovative target. That's just like GG. But like it's more draw dependent. Like I think Druid is more consistent in getting a good hand. And also,
especially now with Aspirant as well, tidying up all those problems. And Eloise just running out the Aspirant here, so that makes sense. And Ryzen's going to give a chance to show us what he can do with fairly awkward.
There are some, all options are. Like, there's some options, but they're just all awkward. Like the only way he can kill it is coin and this, but that's so bad. Yeah. I totally agree with just tagging up. Like it's just too costly to deal with that.
Yeah. And that's what Rogue's all about. That's why the top players can play Rogue really well, and even decent casual players struggle to play the class.
Exactly. Like one mistake as Rogue, you usually lose the game. One mistake as Secret Paladin, not much happens.
Yeah. The mistakes are less hard to make. Like if you just spend your mana every turn as Secret Paladin, you're not doing it very wrong, even if you're making some slight errors. Spend all your mana every turn as Rogue, and you can have a disaster. And there we go. There's the Violet Teacher.
So the Teacher is a huge threat that Eloise has to respect. You usually always want to kill it, so I wouldn't mind seeing swipe hero power here. Oh my god, 7 mana. That's cheating.
Yeah, it seems a bit unfair, right?
Could have used 9 mana while the opponent had 3.
Like, innovate in my hand. I don't want this innovate. I can't spend all the mana. But this is where Ryzen gets the chance to do something about all this. This is the turn he sort of saved up for.
Eloise can still play her entire hand, but it's risky against just a flurry.
Yeah.
So,
and this is something...
But it's like, I think you're like, should I even play around? Like, my hand is so aggressive. Should I just not play around it? Should I taunt it? Should I charge it? I have draw. I also think I could... or like, should I play both? Is it correct here? Like, you really have to do some serious risk assessment. It's a pretty tough decision from Eloise.
This is, of course, the downside of Druid with a lot of the hands Druid can get, where you're paying for the explosiveness, with the downside being that sometimes your hand is just a bunch of... Like, she has 2 cards in her hand that do something right now.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
You play for explosiveness with, like, lowering your value, basically.
Obviously, from the other side, understanding that matchup, Ryzen knows if you can pick away at 1 or 2 of these things that, you know, suddenly she might be in a position where she can't do much. He won't know exactly what's in her hand. It's very hard to read what Druid has in their hand at times.
So she respects the flurry. Totally understandable. That's still a lot of damage if that survives. Oh, and there's the flurry.
Yeah,
oh my god. Flurry aside, such a beautiful clear. Like, it's just so efficient. And that's a no-zip to block combo. Ooh, Saracen. Also good pickup.
How much healing do rogues typically play now? I know it's gone down over the last sort of few months, but
I think you play like a heal bot, and like there's some lists that don't even play Farseer anymore. We have got it for BGH.
And do they play any taunt at all, like 1 Belcher in some lists?
Some lists, I know. I don't know. I think Yagut still lost, but most people they play like heal bot instead.
Right. So we can expect him to have at least one way of stopping the combo from finishing him here somewhere in the deck.
I mean, he already has loads, so that's one way.
No, sure, but that's a 1-turn fix.
Yeah, that's a 1 turn. But sometimes you can 1 turn is all that matters. You can just set up lethal from the turn after.
Okay.
In this matchup, because Rogue can do some pretty explosive stuff with Tingers. The Tempo BGH, usually Rogue doesn't play BGHable targets. Some lists run Boom, but usually can only hit like a Tingard Drake or something, Tingard Lothep or Van Cleef, but Van Cleef isn't even that common anymore.
And people tend to play on BGH anyway if they Van Cleef from what I see. So yeah, Ryzen's saying, well, yeah, that BGH does nothing, go back to your hand, save 4 damage. Letting you know that it's not useful.
So there's the possibility to prep sprint next turn if Ryzen feels the need for card draw. Also, there's Ancient of War in Eloise deck, so like it was still a decision to use the stat like that.
And now he has to make sure his next turn's on point, because the double Savage Roar in Eloise's hand is threatening a lot of damage.
So there is Edwin in Ryzen deck. I mean, he's not gonna make an 8/8. I can tell you that much.
5, 6. So she has 14 damage next turn if he trades into...
I think he can deal 19 this turn. He could have dealt 19 if he wanted to, not quite lethal. So he opts with prep sprint. Yeah, he can play that, and he can first, and then he can backstab straight, backstab prep with this.
Yeah, and that will put a lot of damage on the board for next turn with Deadly Poison, Sharp Sword Oil, Abyss. So it's going to come down to what she can top deck here.
So he's going to save the prep for the Tinker. Tinker is an expensive card, and he feels like he needs to save it. Understandable. The double raw here is it's 9, 13, 14. Yeah, so 2 off lethal.
Yeah.
So has to. That's a tough one. That's a lot of pressure. 11 power when you only have 19. So likely, like the chances of the rogue killing her the next turn is like really high from Eloise's perspective.
Yeah, she's chosen to heal there, so she's well aware of.
She understands
exactly what's going on here.
It's in Ryzen's deck.
And now she has actually a tricky decision to make about whether to trade or not as well to really lower that damage. Because she's looking at 11 just on board, and she knows the deck's full of damage, so... Might be that she chooses to trade here. Nope. So is that enough for Ryzen?
That's not... That's... 6, 9... 20... Yeah, I think it's exactly...
I think it's exact lethal, right?
He has the mana, right? Because he has the threat, yeah.
So I think it's exact lethal. He's just taking his time to make
Yeah,
sure.
like you always recount it, even though you realize it in like...
You don't
5
play for a
seconds.
$5,000 prize pool and not count your exact 24 in case you miss by 1, right? But yeah, nicely worked game there for Ryzen, and Eloise sat there just slightly short of things to put on board for most of the game there because of the innovates, the savage roars. The cards that make the deck good were the cards that were counting against her there.
Like if Eloise got the Ancient of Law earlier, it would have been an entirely different game because there wasn't really off returns. Yeah, like if he had it in the extension of the Double Danasis Wild Growth opener, it would just be insane.
Yeah, and I assume she just picks, like, snap picks Warrior here. Well, she has to anyway. That's all she has left. So yes, she does. And this is a... Does this depend, or is this just good for Warrior either way?
Like it used to be really highly patron favorite, but I think actually Rogue is favorite now.
Okay. So the nerf made a big difference this particular.
Yeah, because the OTK was one of the this is one of the matchup where OTK was really good. Like patrons are not really good because every rogue list runs double flurry. But again, shredders as they are strong against warrior, they're also strong against other weapon classes like rogue. But there is like sap that kind of deals with it, but so it's not kind of the same. Like shredders are like. It's definitely best against warriors, but it's still like decently strong against rogue.
Right, and she's got an interesting hand, like nothing she can do for a couple of turns, then loads of decisions all at once needs to be made here. And going for the traditional try and beat the rogue by armoring up.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that dropping the ghoul, because if she can like protect it, it can generate patron Samson 5. In combination with the Despite. But I wouldn't mind her seeing just armoring up instead. It is totally justifiable.
Right. And Ryzen's plan, just try and get the board first. Both planned to try and get the board, but Ryzen's the one who's got the cards to try and do that first.
Yeah.
So
I think we're gonna see the Despite hit into that. Because like you don't care about the 1/1s. They are not gonna do anything against the Death Rattle. And it's not like you have something like Power of the Wild in the deck, like Druid has. Now your 1/1s are going to remain 1/1s. They're always going to die from the Death Rattle.
Yeah, or anything else in the patron deck.
Yeah, so essentially that blocks Ryzen's turn.
And this Fan of Knives is a good idea. Get it out of the way before anything patrony or
might as well cycle
acolytes
when
and
he has
stuff.
nothing.
Get the chance in there while he can.
So opts to play the Deadly. That is interesting, because he could have like Teach at Deadly next turn.
I wonder what chances. When you're in a tournament like this, are you aware of what everybody's doing, or are you just aware of your next opponent? I'm just wondering if he's had a chance to see much of what Eloise has been playing, like for things like Harrison and stuff. I know almost certainly not, but would he have had a chance to scout that in a tournament like this?
I mean, like, I think, like, obviously some players play so many tournaments that they don't put a lot of emphasis on a single one. But a player like Ryzen, this is a huge opportunity for him. So I would expect him being, like, have scouted the Watts and stuff.
Yeah, even though he only had, like, sort of half an hour's notice for this game. He's on a team with like players.
Yeah, so okay, so maybe he didn't do it in this game.
Yeah,
this wasn't the game that was supposed to be played. It was supposed to be Ryzen versus I believe.
Yeah, that's my point. So,
Cyan. Yeah.
Are you aware of the other matches, or are you just aware of your next match and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think you intentionally scout every single game just in case. I think maybe he just watched it randomly, but
he was in chat, so there was a good chance that he did see. At least the bit he saw, he would remember, I guess.
Yeah. Lorinda, I don't know, man. Okay, so loaded pretty good. But there's also a boom. Actually, Cheetah is good against boom because the boom bots get lower expected value. That's
Yeah,
pretty
because of
interesting.
the 1/1s, I see.
Actually, Ryzen has a pretty good answer, like actually the perfect answer to boom.
Yes, because it's an opportunity to use that fan again as well. Which
Yeah,
you just
in a
don't
matchup
get.
where it's really one of the worst cards. Like Fan is anti-aggro card. Like that's like the only reason you play 2 is because Paladin is so popular.
And it actively helps your opponent for this matchup. And yeah, she's not quite sure which way to go with this decision.
We know Lothar is correct here, but like it's not a mistake to play boom. From from her standpoint.
Yeah, and
that hurts so much.
Just
don't do the temp. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would have been pretty terrifying. Tempo BJ into boom the next turn.
Yeah.
And maybe her spending a long time deciding what to do was
Ryzen knows that's the least Grom in the list. Boom is also popular in patrons, so you don't do it. You don't have to.
Does now have to find a way to get this board though. Choosing to
boom,
do this way. And again, something we saw him do in the previous game is just give the boom bots no chance to just explode in his face, instead protecting his face with minions.
Yeah, because
gives him a chance for the boom bot not to kill things.
Exactly, because he had the option to go for a play that would clear the entire board, which was hit into the 5/2, I believe, and fan, and then BGH afterwards. But it would result in Ryzen taking way too much damage.
Yeah.
So I think this was definitely the most optimal play. Sprint is a key card in this matchup. You need it sooner or later. But he got another good option there that trades with the 1/4, but I still think, yeah, Sprint definitely the play. Just fill your hand with options.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it while he's not facing down a particularly terrifying threat as well. In my opinion, he's got a chance to now set up a massive turn next turn.
So I think Battle Rage was the best draw there, but she doesn't quite get it. Eloise's hand is so bad. You just have to YOLO. But like, she's only a Grom away from the victory. There is no way to protect that Ryzen can protect himself against Grom. So,
and this is the downside of the new patron deck. It's not so focused on the combos. So when it does run out of steam, it is reliant on top decking a lot more than the old one, where you just go, every top deck either draws you a card or is a card you want.
Yeah, and like you have to play stuff here. Like, you would just hoard cards as the patron before and just wait for the big OTK, but you can't really do that anymore.
And now he's literally just worrying about Grom, I would imagine.
Yeah, but like there's 17 cards left. Like the odds are definitely in Ryzen's favor.
And presumably his strategy here is to now. Your strategy is to win. Your strategy is to just try and get a 2-turn lethal at any point you can, I should think.
Yeah.
Desperately try and set up a 2-turn lethal.
He might, like, Sylvanas is gonna play here. So she has to consider a lot of stuff here. Should I kill that? Can I really waste the damage? I could kill it with Inner Rage, but then I don't have a trigger for Petition Grom. So I definitely think Execute is worth here.
Yeah, and that's a decision that's not easily made by a lot of people. I'm going to Execute as a Mortal Coil that doesn't draw a card for.
Like there were downsides to this place, but like it's not like always the best, because let's say Ryzen had to face tank the Sylvanas, and Eloise had face, then like a Deathbite top deck would be lethal. But I think overall this was better, just taking care of the Drake.
I'm just adding up now. He must be getting really close to next turn lethal now. 10, 16... Something like 20 I make it?
So Ryzen can get the +3 from the Tinker with Stab. And then flow. Oh, crap. So that's 9, 12, 16, 20, I believe. So yeah, not quite lethal. So think we're gonna see a sprint. Maybe not. Maybe actually it's just like sap, and you can make like big Van Cleave.
Yeah, because he only needs to set up lethal for next turn, and we've just counted he's got 20. So if he just saps and puts the position back to where it was, for all intents and purposes, then he'll have a lot less damage he needs to do next turn.
I think you trade with the acolytes, definitely. Just like you only draw to it, you only lose to inner rage.
Maybe he felt he needed the 10 because of execute or something.
Oh, he flurries, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so,
it makes sense when you flurry, obviously.
And yeah.
And like again, that's not really a reason to hold back on flurry, so it was like I think that was pretty optimal play.
And Ryzen doing what Ryzen does and wins the match with Rogue. 3-1 against Eloise, who has not had a good day, having also lost to Zixo 3-2. And she falls to 1-3 in the league. And Ryzen goes to 1-1, and he'll be happy to get that first like big win under his belt as well.
Yes, definitely a huge relief. It's never fun being without a win, and now I'm sure he can relax a lot more. Try to secure that top 4 placement, which will